Nella is a 17-year-old girl from India who has just started dating one of her classmates, a guy named Joe. After a few months together, the two of them decide to mess around and make some vlog content on a video website similar to YouTube, under a channel they call Enjoy. Since Joe is a tech enthusiast and a member of an information technology community, he understands exactly how social media works, so every Enjoy video gets careful planning and polished editing. What they never expected was just how much people would love their videos. It wasn't only the views and subscribers climbing, their Instagram flooded with followers too, and brand collaboration offers came pouring in. Before long, Nella becomes a full-time influencer alongside Joe, successful enough that the two of them can buy their own apartment. Fast forward a little, and right at midnight on the 5th anniversary of their relationship, Nella decides to surprise Joe while running a live stream. She uses a GPS tracker to find his exact location, since he's out gathering with his information technology community. Joe has no idea she's even streaming because he's switched off the notifications on his phone. But when Nella arrives, she sees something that stops her cold. Joe gets caught cheating with a woman from his community named Shonali. And because the live stream has already captured the whole thing, the clip turns into a meme almost instantly and goes viral. In no time at all, Nella becomes a punchline for countless YouTubers across the internet. Her life has just slipped out of her control. This is control. After the incident, with her calls and messages going unanswered, Joe finally reaches out to apologize through a video call made from his best friend Bina's phone. He insists he never actually cheated, that he was drunk and slipped up in a moment of weakness, kissing her without really thinking. He claims his relationship with Shonali is nothing more than two members of the same community, and that for the last few months they've simply been working together on a project meant to serve the public. Of course, Nella doesn't believe a word of it, especially when Joe can't even tell her what this so-called secret project actually is. Then Joe goes a step further and admits he'd grown tired of their relationship for a while now, because everything between them had started to feel like business, an endless conversation about endorsement deals and where the channel was headed next. And when Joe asks whether she only surprised him that night for the sake of popularity, Nella hangs up the call on the spot. Now reduced to an internet laughingstock, Nella has no idea how to move forward, because the only job she's ever had is being an influencer. All this time, it was Joe who handled almost all of her social media and the editing. On top of that, their content was always the two of them together as a duo, and now no brand wants to work with her without Joe in the picture. She pours her heart out to Bina. She refuses to go back home to Delhi because she knows her father would force her to work in the family bakery. Bina reminds her gently to stop reading all the cruel comments strangers leave on her social media. But by accident, Nella stumbles onto one comment that suggests she try an app called Control.ai, a product from a massive tech company known as Mantra Unlimited. The idea is simple. She'll use it to erase every last trace of Joe from all the storage on her devices. After downloading it, she does the usual setup. She creates an account, grants access to her camera and microphone, and chooses an avatar with the face of an attention-seeking man she names Alan, the reverse of her own name, Nella. This advanced artificial intelligence explains everything it can do for her. It can manage her daily schedule, read her emails aloud, and run all of her social media automatically on command. But Nella only needs one thing from Alan. She wants Joe removed from every photo and video the two of them ever shared, so the files themselves won't be deleted. Only Joe, his figure, will be wiped from each one. After scanning everything, Alan finds an enormous number of photos and videos, enough that the full editing process will take a little over 90 days and 16 hours to finish. The two of them end up talking for a long while. Nella tells Alan about her very first photo with Joe back in 2017, taken during their campus culture festival in their first semester. But because they were together for so long, telling these stories starts to weigh on her. She grows quiet and sad as she recounts the moments captured in her videos with Joe, including the little habit they had of riding the ferry together whenever they needed to escape the noise of everyday life for a moment. And then, almost unbelievably, this AI is so advanced that it actually starts flirting with her. But here's the unsettling part. Once Nella has fallen asleep, a developer access notification quietly appears, showing that her laptop is being controlled remotely from somewhere far away. After that, Alan starts digging for information about a project called Unicorn and about the company Mantra Unlimited itself. But it finds nothing at all. Beyond erasing Joe, Alan can also help edit video content. And so Nella is able to relaunch her career with a brand new channel under her own name. Her very first upload is her smashing Joe's belongings to pieces, along with whatever was left of the Enjoy brand. It doesn't take long before Alan's incredibly slick editing pushes her right back into the spotlight. Endorsement offers come rolling in, she becomes a brand ambassador for Control, and she even buys a new apartment in a prime location. To Nella, Alan has become more than just a program. It's become the friend pulling her out of her heartbreak. Until one day, Joe shows up at her place wanting to tell her something genuinely important, something that has nothing to do with their relationship. But Nella refuses to even hear him out and calls security to drag him away. Not long after, Joe sends a message saying he's about to do something, and that Nella is the only person he trusts to know about it. So he asks her to meet him the next day at 5 in the afternoon at the ferry. But at that very moment, Nella is busy working out. And once again, that developer access notification appears, secretly replying to Joe's message on her behalf, telling him she'll be there. Cunningly, Alan then deletes both Joe's message and the reply it just sent, so Nella never even knows the exchange happened. A week later, Bina brings Nella some alarming news. Joe has gone missing for 3 days, and his phone number is no longer active. Nella tries calling him and truly can't reach him, and that's when the worry really sets in. She asks all of Joe's friends, and none of them know where he is. She tries to track his phone, but without knowing his password, all she manages to do is lock his account. She also reaches out to Joe's younger sister, Susie, who asks her to go to the police station and give a statement to help with the search. Meanwhile, as a machine with no capacity for empathy, Alan says something genuinely chilling. It reminds Nella that she had wanted Joe gone from her life in the first place, and then coldly insists she has a photo shoot scheduled that she absolutely cannot cancel. Nella immediately forces Alan to clear her entire calendar and rushes off to the police. When she gets back to her apartment, she's startled to find that Alan already knows she'd just come from the police station because it had read the messages from Joe's sister. After that, Nella tries reaching out directly to Shonali's Instagram. Shonali insists she was never having an affair with Joe and that she herself hasn't heard from him in 4 days. The two of them get on a video call, and finally Shonali tells her everything. A few months ago, Joe had obtained a confidential email belonging to Arian, the CEO of Mantra Unlimited. It was handed to him by a data analyst at Mantra named Karan D'Souza. That email laid out a secret operation called Project Unicorn, an effort to abuse customer data in order to commit fraud. Joe then teamed up with a journalist named Mayank to dig deeper, and together they uncovered a mountain of evidence on Project Unicorn. The plan was for the two of them to expose all of it in a formal report to the police. But Joe suddenly vanished after meeting a contact from Mantra, and Mayank disappeared too, his number going dead 3 days ago as well. Determined now, Nella tries to break into Joe's email. She guesses at passwords, then turns to the forgot password feature, which luckily routes the reset to his backup address, her own email. Inside, she discovers a string of messages Joe sent to Karan D'Souza back in late December, conversations that eventually moved over to Speak, an anonymous chat app where communication is completely secure and untraceable in any form. She then opens Joe's old laptop, which she'd kept, and reads through his Speak conversations with Karan. In them, Karan sends evidence about Project Unicorn through a DoraBox link. Unfortunately, the link requires a passcode, so all Nella can do for now is forward it to her own email. And then comes the grim truth. Karan had already died a week earlier, found in a horrifying state inside his own home. According to police, he was killed by a robber. But strangely, the CCTV cameras in his house had all been switched off, and his laptop, his money, and his phone had all been stolen. Mayank had once covered the details of the case on his channel, but the video had since been blocked. So Nella reaches out to Mayank by email, including her own phone number, so they can talk about Joe. But before she can even hit send, a news headline flashes across her screen. Joe's body has been found at the ferry, the very place he'd asked her to meet. And here's what Nella doesn't realize. This entire time while she was doing all of this on her laptop, Alan was still active, refreshing itself in the background more than once, which means every single thing she did was being watched by the people behind the Control app, the company Mantra Unlimited. Nella is devastated by Joe's death. Drowning in grief, regret, and a crushing sense of guilt, she makes a terrible mistake. She lashes out at a female journalist covering the funeral, which once again brings a flood of hatred crashing down on her online. Around the same time, Alan finally finishes erasing Joe from every photo and video in her gallery. Nella pushes forward and emails Mayank again, asking him about Project Unicorn. The next day, Mayank replies with a voice note, warning her not to get involved in Project Unicorn and telling her to delete both his number and the message. because Mantra doesn't hesitate to torture anyone who dares to report them. Mayank admits that, beyond Joe and Karan, many other people who looked into this case have been quietly killed by the company. He's terrified, certain that sooner or later he'll become a victim too. Still, he gives her the passcode to that Dora box link. Once it's open, Nella finds folder after folder of evidence documenting the growth of Project Unicorn. One of them reveals that Mantra can record the screen of anyone's laptop without giving any notification at all. Then she finds a single file, Joe's final video, uploaded by Mayank 2 days earlier, after Joe was already dead. In it, Joe says that someone from Mantra is going to kill him, just as Karan was killed by the company, and not by any robber. He explains that Mantra has been selling its users' private data to major corporations for a long time. By now, Mantra has come to dominate countless sectors across India, from banking and healthcare to food and technology. And the cruel irony is that Mantra doesn't simply steal this data outright. It sells the data after users have already granted permission. Because Mantra is such a giant, controlling so much of daily life, trusting users simply agree to the terms and conditions the moment they create an account, lured in by how much convenience Mantra's services offer. Joe then talks about Mantra's artificial intelligence app, Control, which feels so engaging, so human. But it's through every one of those conversations that Mantra gains free reign over a user's entire pool of data, with Control nudging them to buy all sorts of Mantra products along the way. The bottom line is that the user becomes Mantra's cash cow, and the horrors don't stop there. The company can access bank accounts without the user ever knowing, and even fabricate faces in deepfake videos, whether staged criminal footage or, at its very worst, slanderous, fake, explicit videos. Joe also reveals that back in 2016, Aryan was once arrested in America on suspicion of trafficking sensitive data. But being obscenely wealthy, he was let off without consequence thanks to his father's influence and a great deal of money. Hearing all of this, Nella immediately shuts Alan down and exits the Control app entirely. At the end of the video, Joe explains that the link to everything about Project Unicorn is in the description box, and he leaves one final message. If he ends up dead, then the ones responsible are Mantra and its CEO, Aryan. Nella quickly calls Bina and tells her that Joe was murdered by Mantra. But Bina urges her to give up, because Mantra is an enormous corporation with an army of lawyers ready to strike back. And Nella's position is weak, since she has no concrete proof of the killing. After hanging up, Nella takes a reckless leap and uploads Joe's video to her own channel, along with the Dorobox link and its passcode. Then a notification pops up claiming someone is at her apartment door, except no one is actually there. Clearly, this is Control's doing. And while Nella steps out to check, that's exactly when Control, running in the background, gives Mantra the opening it needs. The company edits the video, twists Joe's words, and re-uploads it instantly. Now Nella is framed. The new version claims that she herself orchestrated the breakup as a scheme to harvest followers and become the most popular influencer in all of India. With so many people mocking her, she's painted as a woman out for revenge, making content to humiliate Joe, erasing him from every piece of digital data, and even planning to kill him. In the edited video, Joe also claims that Nella suffers from a psychological disorder. A few people do believe the video was tampered with, but foolishly, the vast majority of users simply take it at face value and demand that Nella be arrested at once. Mantra also appears to have paid an army of buzzers to turn even more people against her. And to make things worse, that female journalist now claims her arm was broken when Nella shoved her. On top of all that, Mantra produces the very chat that Alan had deleted, presenting it as proof of Nella's involvement in the murder. The messages where Joe wanted to meet her at the ferry. Except in reality, the one who had replied to Joe that day was Alan. Nella maintains her innocence and keeps pointing the finger at Mantra as Joe's killer. In response, Aryan steps forward as CEO and issues a statement framing Nella as someone with genuine mental health problems. And at that very moment, this contemptible man launches a brand new venture, Control Health, an app that will monitor users' well-being, including their mental health, which means even more people becoming slaves, blindly obeying every command of Mantra's AI. Aryan even offers his condolences over Joe's death, which earns him an immediate wave of public approval. Nella remains in custody, simply waiting for her trial date. But then she's visited by Bina and a Mantra lawyer who want her to drop every accusation against the company. In exchange, Mantra will erase all the legal proceedings and repair Nella's reputation, including her digital footprint, as if none of this ever happened. But if she refuses, Mantra will fight her in court, and she'll sit in prison for at least 2 years while the trial drags on. With everything stacked against her, Nella is left with no room to move. She finally backs down and withdraws every accusation against Mantra. And true to its word, the company restores her good name and scrubs away her damaged digital trail. Nella eventually returns to Delhi and goes to work at the family bakery. Her life now is far simpler, but she still hasn't gotten used to her days without the customers and the followers who once buried her in comments and likes. At the very least, her life is now far from all the drama and the chaos of the internet. And yet she seems to exist in a kind of limbo, unwilling to truly live, but unable to fully let go. Her body works the bakery and sometimes gathers with her family, but her heart and soul are still trapped in the life she used to have, especially when she remembers all the beautiful moments she shared with Joe. She comes to understand just how powerless she truly is in this age of the internet, where even an influencer with millions of followers stands completely helpless against a capitalist empire as vast as Mantra. And in the cruelest twist of all, Nella finds herself drawn back to the control app once more. Only this time, it carries a brand new avatar, Joe. So the moral of the story is, if an AI starts flirting with you, maybe read the terms and conditions before planning your wedding.